Industry 4.0, as all of you know, is powered by technology.
And when technology collides with any industry, it's going to disrupt it or destroy it. An example from your life, young gentlemen. Netflix, a technology company, when it collided with entertainment industry, it disrupted it. What's the lesson for us? When an industry gets disrupted, our careers get disrupted, our jobs get disrupted. So what does it mean for you? Let me invite McKinsey and Company to share their perspective of what is likely to happen to our jobs. And this is what McKinsey says. While some jobs will be lost and many others created, almost all jobs will change. Scary, right? So you will certainly ask, is there a second organization that will validate this perspective? So let me invite World Economic Forum to share what their perspective is about the times that we live in. And what does World Economic Forum say? It says very simply, yes, indeed, we are in Industry 4.0, and Industry 4.0 is powered by technology. But they go on to say that entire Industry 4.0 is not entirely formed. If it is not entirely formed, then the jobs are not entirely formed. And if jobs are not entirely formed, then how will you, young people, prepare for jobs that are not entirely formed? To that, World Economic Forum has a direction, has a prescription. And the prescription is hard skills aside, leave the hard skills aside that you will always require. But what it says is, hard skills aside, there are certain skills that you need to possess in which no matter what shape and form Industry 4.0 takes, you will always be well served. And today, I stand here to share with you some of these skills that are proposed by some of the leading authorities of the world. So let me start with the first skill. And to start, let me start narrating stories to you. Today, smartphone is an integral part of our life. We can't imagine smartphone, right? Our lives without smartphone. Where did Steve Jobs, the founder of smartphone, get this idea from? Go back to the beginning of this century. There existed a phone which was a communication device, which was Nokia. Nokia, we could only, while walking, communicate. And at that point, there also existed something called the desktop. The desktop had internet in it. So on one side, we had a device which was mobile with which we could communicate, but could not access internet. On the other side, we had a desktop which sat on our desk, which gave us internet. And Steve Jobs very, very, very nicely said, why don't we combine the best of the two and come out with a device with which we can talk while we are moving and which also puts internet in our hand. And that is how smartphone was born. What did he do? He took one idea, which is cell phone. He took another idea, which is laptop, and combined and made connection between two dissimilar products to come out with a product which today has enriched our life. You will say that could just be one of those things. So let me take another example, which is a part of our life. Twitter, which is now X. Where did this idea of Twitter come from? The gentleman who founded Twitter was a nerd, which means as a young person, he was always involved with technology. One day, while he was tinkering with the various gadgets, he happened to hack into the emergency system of his town, emergency system of fire brigade, police, etc. What did he discover? If it was fire, let's say fire engines or the fire station he hacked into, he saw this conversation happening. Fire on street 5, rush fire engines. Rushing fire engine over. If it was a police station, what did he discover? Robbery on street X, rush reinforcement, rushing reinforcement over. This gentleman, the founder of Twitter, then realized when it is a question of life and death, small burst of communication is so effective. But when we, rest of us, talk, we keep on talking, and without communicating anything. So what did he do? He took this best idea from emergency system and combined how we communicate into something which is called Twitter, now X. So he forced us to communicate in short bursts. What is this thing called? It's technically called creativity. What is creativity? It is a learned skill, and that is what is good about it. It's a learned skill when traditional thinking is bypassed and imagination is allowed to freely wander, to import, combine, connect ideas in new and imaginative ways to come up with big ideas. Learn to be creative. The second skill that I would propose is here. Since the beginning of last century, from 1902 till towards the end of last century, which is late 1990s, what was the tradition, norm, and assumption? That when vehicles move, they shall pollute. This was the tradition, assumption, and norm. What did one gentleman who came towards the end of last century and now who is actually all over this century, Elon Musk, what did he do? He defied this tradition, assumption, and norm, and he said that vehicles will move, but it shall not pollute. And he offered this alternative, which is called clean transportation. He challenged the existing tradition, assumptions, and norms to give us this. What is this skill called? It's called critical thinking. What is critical thinking, if I may put it across to you? Critical thinking is, if you are a critical thinker, you should challenge tradition, question assumption, and define norms. And if you are a critical thinker, then you reason through logic, filter out biases, possess diversity of thoughts, and do not fall victim to heuristic, which is shortcut thinking. This enables you to arrive at better judgment, think deeply, and become a skilled problem solver. So the second skill that you need to possess is become a good critical thinker. And the third skill that I wish to share with you is a lesson I learned from cricket. Towards the beginning of this century, I worked in a company which sponsored a cricket match. Because we sponsored it, we got the VIP ticket. So me, my wife, and my little son, we went to Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai to witness this match. It was a match between West Indies and India. The first 1.5 days, West Indies batted. Then it came our turn to actually go and bat. So I looked at my son and I said, while our Indian batsmen were going to open, we were close to them. I said, come, let's see how they go out to open for India. And what I noticed was that there were 3 people walking in a line, one behind the other, to go and open. So I looked at one of the person in authority of the cricket club, and I asked, how many people open for India? He says, sir, 2. Then I looked at them, and I pointed out to them, and I said, look, 3 people are going to open for India. By the time I asked this question to this person in authority, 2 people had crossed and walked into the field to open for India, while the third person sat just near the rope without entering the field on a mudda, on a chair. He was fully dressed up with helmet. He was sitting on that chair with a bat next to him. So I looked at him and I said, who is this gentleman? Right? Why is he sitting there? Because he was the third person who was behind the 2 people who went to open. So this person from the cricket board looked at me as if I was insane. He says, you don't know him? I said, no, sir. He said, he is Sachin Tendulkar. I said, what is Sachin doing there? Because he bats at number 4. He says he is acclimatizing himself. I thought to myself, the number 3 batsman is in the air-conditioned room and he's here, acclimatizing himself. That day I learned a very important lesson. And that lesson is that we must have excellent work ethics, the one that is displayed by Mr. Sachin Tendulkar. And that is why he's called God of Cricket. From that day, I have made work ethics the way of life. What is the lesson for us? We can learn from every opportunity that we get. And we have to be a lifelong learner and learn from every opportunity. And that is the third skill that I wish to present to you. The third skill is be a lifelong learner. In a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, which is disrupted by technology, people need to be lifelong learners. It increases employability, accelerates career advancement, enhances self confidence, helps to remain relevant, and force the unexpected with aplomb. In brief, it is your passport for being a lifelong winner. Let's move to the next skill. This is the election year of the world. Let's go to the largest economy of the world. This gentleman was fighting for the first time to be the president of this largest economy of the world. What did he do to win the election? He asked his citizens of the largest economy of the world, do you want to make your country great again? They said yes, and he won the election. Come closer to the largest democracy of the world. Go back a decade. What did the person who was fighting the election ask the voters? Do you want good days? The voters said yes, and he won the election. If you ask, was it some magic formula that both of these gentlemen used? The answer is no. They used the working of human brain. So let me just share with you what is the framework that they used. The human brain has three layers. One is limbic, extended limbic, and the neocortex. Inside limbic and extended limbic resides emotion and behavior, and in the neocortex, which is of recent origin, resides rational thinking. What is the strategy that these politicians use to influence voters at scale in large numbers is the same thing we can use. They pose a rhetorical question whose answer is always yes. The first gentleman asked the question, do you want to make your country great again? This question touches the heart of the voters, and in their heart they say yes. The moment they say yes, their behavior towards the politician changes, and they ask, what should we do? The politician says, please vote for me. Same case in the largest democracy. Posed a rhetorical question which says, do you want good days? We said yes. The moment this question touched our heart and we said yes in our heart, our towards him changed, our attitude, and we asked him, what should we do? He said, vote for us, and we did. So what's the next question? You have the power to influence people over whom you have no authority by using the way the human brain is structured, but don't use it to mislead people. So what is influence without authority? This is called influence without authority. It will enable you to bring others to your way of thinking, motivate them to support your initiative, and adopt your ideas of their own free will. This will get you noticed, get you promoted, and help you rise in life. Now comes the last skill. Here, let me take you to a village in India. There was this woman who was a daily wage worker. She wanted to actually save money so that during the rainy season, she could put a plastic sheet over her house so that rain does not drip into her home. And all she could save was 10 rupees per day. So she went to a bank and said, can I save this money? The bank refused, saying that this amount is so small that if we allow you to save, the cost of maintaining your account is far larger. This disappointed her, and she met a social worker who was of influence. She narrated her plight to her, and the social worker was determined to solve her problem. So she approached the bank of our country, which has the right to give license to open banks. And she said, there are these women who face this problem, and I want you to give them a banking license so that they can run a bank. The banking authorities looked at this social worker of eminence and said, these women can't even write, sign. How can they run a bank? So the social worker came back very disappointed, and to this group of ladies, she started narrating her incident that I did go to this authority, but they refused because you can't write. And tears came down her eyes and cheeks. Seeing this, these women who were illiterate at that time looked at her and said, Madam, there is no point in crying. It will not solve our problem. But if you really want to solve our problem, educate us. get us to sign, teach us simple mathematics to calculate interest. And that's what she did. For the next few months, these women, after working, came in the evening and they learned how to sign names, how to actually calculate interest. Now what happened? They again went back to the authorities. These women this time went back and told the authority, last time you rejected us because we could not sign. We have now come back and we can sign our name, we can calculate the interest. Give us this test. If we fail, don't give the license. But if we pass, do give. But there's a caveat. And the caveat is, get your people who calculate interest also to do the same calculation as us, but without the calculator. The women won, and they started, and they got the license, and they run this bank, which is called Mandeshi Bank. It's a women started by women, run by women, and for women. And it's one of the most successful things. What is the lesson for us? These women, underprivileged women who have all the disadvantages, and they had absolutely no resource, they displayed something which is called the entrepreneurial spirit. What is an entrepreneurial spirit? Take a look at this. A is aspiration, R is resource. Professional managers, what do they have? If you give them a budget of 100 lakhs, they will come out with a plan of 100 lakhs, which means their aspiration will be equal or less than the resource that they have. What about these women or people with entrepreneurial spirit? Their aspiration will always be more than the resource that you give them. So this is the fifth skill that I would request you to possess, entrepreneurial spirit. It's an intangible energy which inspires people to have aspiration greater than the resource at their disposal. When this spirit is alive, business keep their mojo and maintain their edge. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, I close my talk by recommending to you that if you want to thrive and flourish in the industry 4.0, which is not entirely formed, these are the skills that you need to possess. Then no matter what form and shake industry 4.8 takes, you will flourish. And these skills are creativity, critical thinking, lifelong learning, influence without authority, and entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.